Okay, today's sad story is once again from Australia. We'll have a look at the vocab and the grammar, as always. Heartbreaking update on Dazelle Peters, the New South Wales teen denied a life-saving lung transplant. It's quite strange. Why would she be denied a life-saving lung transplant? Well, the clue is here on another article. Hospitals are denying transplants for patients who aren't vaccinated against COVID, with backing from ethicists. Now, ethicists are obviously experts on ethics. They know exactly what to do, the right thing to do, and they always act in the right way. That must be what an ethicist means, I suppose. It's some kind of expert on ethics. They didn't used to exist, but they do nowadays. Okay, let's read about poor Dazelle Peters. A teenage cancer patient who was denied a vital lung transplant has tragically died. She was refused this lung transplant. She was denied. Both are possible in the passive there. She was refused, she was denied a vital lung transplant. Dazelle Peters, 17, who was diagnosed with leukemia. I think that's a type of blood cancer. I'm not sure. I'm not a medical man. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to give you medical advice. I'm just here to correct your English. 4 years ago, lost her fight for life in hospital on Monday morning. Her father, Josh Peters, confirmed the heartbreaking news in a video. That should say a video, not an, because of course an is before vowel sounds. I imagine it was first an upload or something like that, which would be correct. But in a video uploaded to several social media platforms. He thanked everyone who had sent messages of support to Dazelle during her lengthy cancer fight. So if something is lengthy, it takes a long time. It lasts a long time, something lengthy. During her lengthy cancer fight, sparking an outpouring of tributes. So if you have an outpouring of grief or an outpouring, it's usually of grief, an outpouring of tributes would be messages saying that they messages of condolences. And we often say an outpouring of grief, or that's the word which first comes to my mind anyway, with outpouring, that collocation. But you could have an outpouring of tributes as well. Just know that Dazelle knew how much you all loved her, he said. And that's a picture of Dazelle after she got sick. She looked very different before, when she was still healthy. But this kid was something special, and she deserved better, I agree. Hundreds of people took to social media to remember Dazelle and express their sympathy. Rest in peace, Dazelle. Notice the commas around the noun of direct address. That's a very strict comma rule, and if you ever forget those commas around the noun that you're talking to, when you address somebody as Dazelle, or as sir, or as captain, professor, mom, whatever, any term of address will need to be in commas if it's being used as an address, and so it is in the next sentence. We'll see it again in a second. Rest in peace, Dazelle, and my condolences to you and your family. So that's a good word to use when somebody has died. You offer your sincere condolences, and I'd like to offer my condolences to the family, to Dazelle's family. One person wrote, Dazelle, comma for the noun of direct address again, so it's exactly the same as those two commas, except this one's at the start of the sentence and that one interrupted the sentence, and so that's got two commas, this has only got one. So Dazelle, I admired you for your courage, strength and your unconditional love that you shared with many, another person said. Aussie boxer George Kambosos Jr., who met Dazelle in hospital. That's a non-defining relative clause. There's only one George Kambosos, the Aussie boxer. He shared an emotional post on X, and here he is. He sounds like a nice guy. Rest in peace, beautiful Dazelle. And that's a comma for the noun of direct address as well. He's calling her beautiful Dazelle, and so we need a comma. And RIP always means rest in peace. My deepest condolences to her family. Look at that. Sincere condolences, deep condolences, deepest. All of those work. Heaven gained a beautiful angel. Dazelle, you will never be forgotten. And again, a comma for the noun of direct address. You'll never be forgotten, comma, an inspiration to everyone you ever met. And that is an absolute phrase, if you're interested, where you have a noun phrase that's functioning adverbially. Okay, God bless your parents, comma, that we by your side when you finally spread your wings. I would change that to who, personally, if you're going to keep that comma, because that is for defining relative clauses which don't have a comma. So I would get rid of that comma or change that to who. Probably best to change it to who, because we're not defining which parents. It's clear it's your parents. Life can be cruel, he wrote. Dazelle had required a double lung transplant to help treat her leukemia, which is a type of blood cancer. There we go, but she refused to get the COVID-19 jab. Okay, that comma is because we've got a fanboy's word between two main clauses. The first main clause is here, and the second main clause is here. So we need that comma as well. And that comma is for a non-defining relative clause. Okay, the hospital said Dazelle's lack of a COVID vaccination was a factor in her not being put on the waiting list, for lungs. But there are other reasons beside that. She had received a bone marrow transplant in May 2021, so she was very sick, and suffered from graft versus host disease, which causes her immune system to attack donor blood cells. Okay, so it does look like it would have been dangerous for her to have the lung transplant, but I suppose when you're in a certain position, you don't have many choices. That comma is for a non-defining relative clause again. She also contracted a rare form of pneumonia, which specialists at Sydney's St Vincent's Hospital said made Dazelle a potentially immunocompromised patient who needed to be vaccinated. Okay, that comma is for the non-defining relative clause again, and you can tell this, look out for comma and then which, and it's probably a non-defining relative clause. A hospital spokesperson previously said their policies and guidelines wouldn't support transplantation of an unvaccinated person. So I suppose you get two types of people nowadays: people who doctors will treat and people who doctors refuse to treat, because I suppose they are unworthy in some kind of way. Vaccination status against various infections is a critical part of this assessment in order to ensure optimal prospects of a survival post-transplant. A St Vincent's Hospital spokesperson said. Mr. Peters previously claimed a doctor at the hospital had told his daughter that if she did not get the vaccine and then caught COVID-19, she would be a major threat to everyone in the hospital who has done the right thing. So this doctor must be one of those ethicists, who knows best. The way he made us feel was that they didn't want to give her the lung transplant, Mr. Peters, 45, previously told Daily Mail Australia. Mr. Peters claimed a doctor had also said during a consultation at St Vincent's that the hospital would give the lungs to a better candidate because Dazelle was a complex case. Sorry about that, I do that every time. Okay, just one more paragraph now because I am a little bit busy, and there's Dazelle when on a better day there. She looks actually quite fit and healthy there, doesn't she? So Dazelle's case was brought to the attention of the Federal Assistant Health Minister Jed Kearney in a letter addressed to her by outspoken Liberal MP Russell Broadbent. So Russell's asking why this happened. Miss Kearney advised the Australian government is unable to intervene in clinical decisions. So the Australian government is not taking any responsibility for what happened to Dazelle, and they are saying it's the hospital's decision whether to treat her or not. The priority and treatment given to an individual is ultimately a clinical decision made by the treating hospital and transplant teams involved, she stated. She clarified there was no official mandate barring the unvaccinated from getting transplants, no official mandate, but it was happening, we know that. The guidelines do not prevent a patient who has not received a COVID-19 vaccination from being placed on a transplant waiting list, we usually say here in the UK, Miss Kearney said. She also said each state and territory was responsible for the delivery of the jurisdictional health services, including hospital and transplantation services. Okay, very sad story there, but what do you think?